Should you pull for Core's BT? His role is going to be a linked attacker and damage reduction. Moving to his notable attacks, you have Moonlit Dawn, his skill 1, 2 HP attacks with 150% splash. It grants Oath of Absolute Defense for 6 turns to a selected ally. How this buff works is it can only be used on one ally, where before any enemy can attack that selected target, Core does a preemptive 2 split HP attack. The last great thing about this buff, it prevents break. Snow Break, his skill 2, it is 2 split HP attacks, and it grants Oath of Absolute Defense 6 turns to a selected ally. Lion's Roar, his EX, it is 5 AoE HP attacks. It grants 1 free ability use, and it grants himself 1 of Lucis's 3 8 turns. This buff works similarly to Absolute Defense, in which you get a 2 split HP attack before Core attacks, or if the enemy targets Core himself. Like the other buff, it also prevents break. Riffleur Sierra definitely butchered that. His LD, it is 3 HP attacks and another 3 split HP attacks. It grants 10 levels of King's Power within his overhead effect, in which if the overhead reaches level 7, it changes his HP attack to Reaper's Gale. And finally, the LD is instant turn rate. We're gonna move on to what Reaper's Gale is. It does 5 split HP attacks, it does rainbow damage, and reduces 10 levels of his overhead King's Power within. And finally, it is instant turn rate. Welcome Coincidence, his FR, it has a special effect in which Core has a 40% chance to deal rainbow damage with all of his attacks. Kojishi's Dance, his BT, it lasts 8 turns, and a cool thing that it does is the buff Oath of Absolute Defense, which you can normally only apply it to one ally, you can now apply it to both allies. However, keep in mind, you won't be able to apply them both at the same time. You still have to apply it separately. And as a nice cherry on top, you get a party HP cap up of 30% from his BT. His force conditions, you only have 2 of them. You get a 40% when you're dealing at least 9,999 brave damage, and it only has to be 1 brave attack. You get a 5% whenever triggering a follow-up or a trap that deals brave damage, and this can stack up as many times as you're able to. Core's pros, he's a great style for any team you're building. His buff onto his allies works great defensively. The fact that his off-turn damage is able to be triggered not only by the enemy, but by you as well. So if you have a turn hogger, you want to use them, and you want some extra bit of damage, just have Core apply his buff onto that turn hogger you're trying to use. Off-turn is going to be triggering every time they move. Not to mention, on the defensive side, whenever the enemy tries to attack Core or his allies, they're going to be getting attacked as well. Core is an off-turn unit with a great balance of defense and offense. Not to mention, he's also very easy to use. The great thing about preemptive damage is if the enemy has a high brave number and you don't want to die. Great thing about Core is his preemptive attack deals brave damage too. He can actually lower the amount of brave the enemy has before the enemy attacks, meaning in some circumstances he can actually save your party from being wiped out. Another great thing about Core's defensive capabilities is the entire party can't be broken, and if the enemy has an attack where it triggers whenever someone is broken, with Core you don't have to worry about that. Core is also someone who works really well in long fights. In the Dare to Defy, the freaking the Evil Hope one, if you haven't beaten it yet, Core is a really good pick for it, honestly. Even if you just constantly spam Core's skills, his buffs are still going to be up the entire fight. I've never, in my almost 2 years of using Core, never had skills run out. You don't have to worry about skills running out. Moving on with Core, his FR conditions are easy to fulfill, at least dealing 9,999 brave damage in 1 attack. Core also himself having auras that you can use. How many support units have we had show up nowadays? Dealing at least 9,999 brave damage, that's not hard at all. With Core's second condition, it basically complements any trap or follow-up at all. If there's some sort of off-turn damage besides preemptive that deals any sort of brave damage, it's fulfilling the condition. So if you have 3 people in your team constantly doing off-turn damage, that's a lot of numbers it's going to pile up, and it's definitely very abusable if you have the right people. And lastly, I do think this is a relevant pro. Core's good even without his BT. If you just had him up to his FR, he will still do amazing work. He will still do really well for offensive teams. And even if without the BT you can't prevent your entire party being broken, if you just brought a tank with you, 95% of your problems would go away. Core is a very simplistic character. He still is going to work the same. Moving on to Core's cons, we got to talk about his FR first. Like I said before, the conditions themselves are easy to fulfill. However, it did not get reworked from Core's original FR. Core's original FR, that was really good for its time. But we're in the FR Echo era now. Constantly getting 70% to 80% per turn is more or less the normal. Core's FR, you're only getting a 40% and then plus a 5% for every follow-up or trap. It's a bit power crept in my opinion. It can still measure up to FRs nowadays if you have extra units that can do trap or follow-up damage. However, if it's only Core that can fulfill that second condition, the FR numbers might not be that high. And finally, with Core's instant turn rate and HP attack, I'll be honest, I don't use them a lot. I more or less just use his skills and his EX. That's pretty much all I use. As strong as they are, you don't really want Core to take that many turns in a fight. You want either his other party members to move more, or you want the enemy to move more. Core's BT effect, it is 8 turns, but it's not infinite. You do still have to take it a little bit slow with him. If you're dealing with some sort of HP or Brave Shield and you need that good rainbow damage number to hit, it's perfect for that. However, in all other scenarios, I don't really see myself using them. And lastly with Core, the skills themselves do very little damage. Another reason why I don't really like Core taking that many turns in a fight, his direct damage, apart from his LD and HP, isn't that good. His off turn is easily his most efficient form of damage. My schedule pull rating for Core is an S. He's a great, simple character to use. I think he's fantastic for new players because he's very easy to understand. He's simple, he's consistent, easy to use, and he's very accessible. Even if you don't plan on using him a whole lot, I do think having someone like Core is a very good investment for you. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.